Hi, I'm Dr. Patrice Perry, and I need to tell you a story. This past Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, marked the beginning of the season of Lent. I really would like you to look it up, Lent. And it's a time of fasting and prayer, and it's preparation for the commemoration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ of Easter. So it's 40 days before Easter. And every time I come into the season of Lent, um, I remember my childhood pastor, Reverend Ross B. Rainey. He was the pastor of the Mother Church of God in Christ in Wilmington, Delaware. He was a very studious person. He was a very caring person. He was deeply praying person, very disciplined about study. I think I got the hard work ethic from my mother, and I got the discipline in study from my pastor. When I went away to college, he was like, remember, in all your ways, acknowledge God, and he will direct your path. And study to show yourself approved. He was really into study. Anyway, and rightly dividing the word, right? He was not demonstrative, even though it was a Pentecostal church. He was not an emotional person. He wasn't given into emotion. He was not, he barely, people would jump and shout and what have you. And he just didn't do a lot of that at all. But every year during Lent, he fasted the entire 40 days, no food, very little juice, very little. He had water every day, but he had little juice, and he fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and he'd be deep in prayer and meditation. And he was such a force, a very calm force. And when I think about Howard Thurman, I think about Ross Rainey. He had a force about him that made people stop and listen. And I remember once there was I think it was people were rioting after the death of Sheila Farrell, a young black girl who went to school with us, childhood friend of, everybody was a childhood friend. Everybody, we all lived in the same neighborhoods. We're all, that kind of thing. And she was murdered for picking a peach off of a white man's tree. And the city was up in arms. And our senator then was, young senator, junior senator was Joe Biden. And Joe Biden called my pastor, Reverend Rainey, and he said, can you please come down here? Because I think it's not going to be good for folks. And yeah, I think it had to have been that time because I was cognizant and active and aware. 68, I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. That was the riots around the death of Martin Luther King. But on those riots, yeah, he was called downtown. And there's a picture of him that was in the newspaper of him standing in front of this crowd that had, stuff in their hands. They were ready to go. And he stopped and he quietly said, this is not what we should be doing. And we need to pray. We need to pray for that family. We need to pray for your children. We need to make sure that all the children are well. And he spoke in a tone like that. And everybody, went home. Everybody just went home. They stopped. But that was that person who was, as the old folks would say, prayed up. He would pray and fast. And he did not require ever that the church would pray and fast. In fact, he would tell us not to. It's very difficult. It's hard on your body. If you don't know your health history, it's not something you should do. But it wasn't one of those things where because he was doing it, everybody had to do it. It was not. When I went away to college and I was out on my own, I began to do those fasts. And I did them for most of my adult life until I started having some health challenges and things, and I stopped doing it. And then when I came into the Episcopal Church and found out when we fast, it's kind of between meals. Anyway, so the season of Lent now for me is not something I give up. It is a practice that I take on. So for 40 days, I take on privately a practice of something that I want to do in that time to not only remember the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus, but I also think about the life and the struggle of my ancestors. And very often I read the narratives of enslaved people and I read the narratives of abolitionists. This year I'm taking on a new project, a new Lenten practice that will, by the end of 40 days, really give forth something. But this morning I was thinking of him and his discipline and what that discipline brought forth spiritually and the kind of loving joy. I mean, the way he spoke into my life and shared with me the things that I would see and do and be is amazing. And I know that that kind of just holy imagination and holy discipline, what can you take on for 40 days? Whether you're religious or not, what practice of discipline can you do for 40 days that will bring about a change not only in your life, but the lives of everyone who come near you? I love you.